talking a little bit about the wildly popular Fortnite and how that affects esports. There was a big 100-person game that occurred at the new LA Soccer Stadium a couple of weeks ago. There was the Econ type thing over
E3.
at E3. That's what it's called. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And in LA, where esports and the future of esports was discussed. And we start seeing now players getting contracts, right? The same way that LeBron James is getting a contract, the same way that Kobe Bryant had a. Now, if you're really good with your thumbs, it could be worth more to you. I don't think I saw that a year or two ago.
Not a chance. In fact, what I love about this is I always dreamed, what if I was, 50 years old, really successful, and, Roselle came up to me or the Hunt family and said, hey, Dave, you want to invest in this? This whole football thing, it's been around. Video games have been around for 30 years. It's been around, but I think, someday this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I was just with Bobby Bell the other week and was paid $6,800 to play. They had what was called the taxi squad because they had to drive taxis and play football. And actually, Bobby Bell worked at General Motors, and people would say, hey, I thought you played football, man. He goes, I do, but this is my job. This is my job. So what I see is this extraordinary opportunity. I'm actually an owner of a team now. Super excited, Splice, won League of Legends, and But I think it's important to stop the show right now and do one thing, because even as far as you and I are along with esports and excited about what's going on, we don't realize that the majority of the 3.2 billion people and growing out there don't have a clue what we're talking about. They don't know what Fortnite is about because it is a frequency and it has millions of people involved, but not billions. And it also, people, let alone not Fortnite, they don't even know, like really powerful people don't have a clue what esports is. So maybe you can, Jason, just give a background of actually what esports is.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was at a cigar lounge last week, right?
You're such a healthy guy, by the way.
I do everything. I was at a gym for a while too, but we're not talking about that. But I was at a cigar lounge with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this esports movement and how do we put together and how do we capitalize on it, really, because there's a lot of people that are interested in it. And I want to get back to the early days of professional football and how it maybe relates a little bit, because I think that was a great analogy you made. But we were talking about it, and a guy was sitting across from us, and you could expect sometimes cigar lounges are a little stuffy, and there's some guys there with some cash, and he looks up from his laptop and he says, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
People get paid? People pay to play video games?
Wow, but no, people watch people play. That's the first question they ask.
Right.
Forget getting paid. People literally look at me going, dude, wait, hold on. People watch people playing video games.
Well, because the obvious question, and this was a question that you and I asked out loud a year or so ago, was how is anybody ever going to make any money at it? Right? Like, as an owner, if you had said 2 years ago, I'm going to go buy an esports team, I would have been like, what are you buying? You're buying a bunch of nerds sitting on their couch? I mean, how does that equate to any money, right?
Right.
And then I thought about it, and you made a very good point with professional athletes. And another place that I enjoy is Hollingshead Deli in Orange, right across from the hospital. Great craft beer selection. A little shout out to Hollingshead.
There you go.
They're a huge Green Bay Packers place, right? And they have a letter on the wall from Lambeau, Ed Lambeau, or whatever his name was, right?
Ownership?
Right. I know the field, right?
Yeah.
But there was a letter from him to the guy saying, hey, look, we're going to pay you $1,200 a week, and we're going to pay you this. And I'm thinking, you can't live on that, right? And you hear stories about guys, working at a car dealership or working in insurance and then becoming a professional football player.
Right.
That's kind of where we are with esports, except for the fact that what people don't understand is there's guys making $6-7 million a year playing Fortnite, which if you don't know anything about, it's only because you don't have a 12-year-old.
Right, or less. I have an 8-year-old who, I have to restrict him from the time that he plays Fortnite. And
I torched my kids' controllers, by the way.
You did?
They went in the barbecue because of overuse.
Yeah, and I think every parent today is concerned about overuse. And the challenge that I have is, unlike most people, I think I have extreme knowledge and foresight on the growth of this sport. Right, I've been blessed to be in the business a long time and to see, lacrosse with Paul Rabel blow up. and how that happened. USA Rugby in the sevens and how that is created. Now, how they're formulating with Oliver Luck, the XFL, and how I believe that's going to have the same trajectory. And of course, our major sports, how they, although, we have minor declines, those sports have grown tremendously in our lifetime, right?
Well, and that's my point. You were alive, right?
Yes.
And I was alive. Maybe we weren't watching the NFL when people had second jobs.
Yeah.
And now they're making $25 million a year to play and another $20 million a year just to be themselves on the cover of a magazine. That wasn't that long ago in the history of the world.
No, and for a full contract, I remember the first free agent and $1 million man, Gene Tennis, signing for the Padres. It was a big deal.
Right.
$1 million. I know a kid in eSports that's making $1.5 million a month. And that league's only, less than a year old. What he's playing is literally a year old. And so the trajectory of this, because of the access and the mediums, meaning the internet, 3.2 billion people and growing every day. When you can monetize, and I keep on stressing this to people, when you have the best content, and meaning content is a game that everybody loves. If you have a game everybody loves, that's great content. If you have a movie everybody loves, that's great content.
The 2026 World Cup is coming to the U.S., Mexico, Canada as joint bid wins the vote. What do you think about this?
I love it because I know the Rose Bowl is going to be one of the locations. We also are behind the eight ball because the U.S. team didn't make the World Cup right now, which I would have loved because that would have given us something to watch. It is going to be an extraordinary boost as you see all these new soccer clubs or football clubs in America rising up. I think we can't lose the momentum we're having with our kids with one of the greatest sports on earth, one of the oldest sports on earth, and it's going to really revive soccer in America.
Now, what do you think about the fact that it's given to a continent really rather than a country? Because the 2026 sites include Toronto, Montreal, Mexico City, LA, Dallas, Miami. I mean, you're all over the place. So if you're talking about being able to buy a ticket to it, if it was in London, you're going to a handful of stadiums, right? That you could probably drive to all of those or take a train. It's really difficult for someone to say, I want to come and watch soccer or football in the United States, but I also have to go to Mexico. I also have to go to Canada. I might have to be on the East Coast, the West Coast. It's probably really good for soccer as a whole, North American continent, but it doesn't seem like it's very friendly to the fan.
Oh, I disagree, right? I believe that it allows more people to watch the games. It does prohibit people from going to all the games, but it's been my experience over the years, the people that do those World Cup tours and go to, every single round of the games, et cetera, they have, number one, extraordinary means, and they figure out a way. And as far as getting to those countries, look, if you can get in the United States, there's no problem getting into Canada and Mexico.
We talked about Lamar Jackson, right, a lot pre-draft. He had an incredible mini camp. If you're Joe Flacco, are you concerned?
No, not at all. You're helping that kid, right? If you're Joe Flacco, you won another Super Bowl before you're done. It's proven that you need two quarterbacks because, the team that won the Super Bowl had two quarterbacks. And it's really important to understand that, look, this gives me freedom as Joe Flacco to have them
grow the center part of his eyebrow.
Oh, nice. The blender. I knew we would get there. But if I was someone that already won a Super Bowl, that had a great career, coming into the later part of my career, I would want someone off the bench that can make a big play in a different way, change up the defense. So when I come back in, they're not prepared for me. And two, allow me that if I'm hurt, to develop that kid and actually take a week off so that when the playoffs come, I'm ready and I'm the man. And we all know he will be the guy if they make the playoffs, and he's just setting up his team for the future.